Let's bring in Baby Drago right now.
What's up, brother? How are you doing?
Can you? How are we doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself? Can you hear me good?
Can hear you good. We've got Leonid Grachev, Baby Drago. You went on the expedition, we'll call this. You go down to Mexico for a fight. I'm pretty sure that there's a story from everything that one encompassed, including what looked to be a very unique setting for the fight.
Yeah, man. I'll talk about it a little bit. As you know, it's been almost 2 years since I had a fight, and I've been trying really hard to get on a card, but it just didn't work out. So finally, I reached out to some people I knew out in Tijuana, and usually the way those fights go is, you have to pay your own way to get out there. And I had to fight for free, so I had to fundraise a lot of money. Big thanks to a lot of my sponsors that helped me out, helped me get out there. It was kind of crazy. They canceled my flight the day before the weigh-in, so I'm scrambling. I had to buy all new tickets for myself and my team. So I'm heading out there. I'm already a few $1,000s in debt because I had to grab the new tickets. Um, everything was good. We make it out there, we fight, and then an hour before I cross the border to go back, a stray dog bites me and I have to get rabies shots.
A stray dog just ran up on you and took a bite out of Baby Drago.
Just like that, man. Just like that. So, I got home. I had to go back to work to pay off those debts. I had to go to the urgent care it was, and they brought me a bunch of needles and stuff. They stuck me, gave me whatever the anti rabies vaccine is. So I was running around doing that. But overall, other than that, good experience.
So you're going to remember this one for a few reasons, I'm gathering.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What was it like finally getting back in the ring and getting to put some new skills to test and a new fight theory?
Man, it was great. I loved it. It felt amazing being back in the ring. But I have to say this is probably the longest I've ever gone since the start of my fight career without having a fight. Like I said, it's been almost 2 years, and it was tough. Even though I stayed in the gym, I sparred, I never took time off. The fight and sparring are two completely different experiences. So it took me a few rounds to get adjusted, and by the time I did, the fight was over, and thank God everything was good. We dominated the guy, we won, but it's tough being out of the ring for 2 years and then just jumping back in.
Did you think that the ring rust was going to be as present as you felt it?
No, not at all, not at all. Like I said, I've been in the gym these whole 2 years since I didn't have a fight. Um, I never took any time off, but I definitely felt it. It wasn't horrible, but there's some kind of these nerves, and you're a little tighter than you want to be, and you're trying to shake it back out, and you're tight again, and you're moving like you're not used to. But it was great. I'm so happy that I was able to get back in there.
Were you able to execute in the manner of aggression and violence that you wanted to? I know that from you there was having to up the that level of violence was going to be an emphasis.
Yeah, there were a lot of things I did good. As every interview you do, every time you ask me about a fight I've had, I'm never fully satisfied with any of my performances. So there's definitely a lot of stuff I could have done better. But in terms of being aggressive and violent, I definitely feel like I did that. I let my right hand go a lot more. Um, the promoter did upload the video somewhere on YouTube. So no, I don't know if you've seen that or not, but I had the guy hurt a few times. I tried to finish him, but he was tough. He kept coming forward. He took some big shots. I think I had him. Like I said, I had him hurt a few times. His nose might have been broken because I talked to him after the fight. He started, swelling up a little bit, but I definitely put my hands on him. And it's, like I said, I'm always looking for the finish. It doesn't always come, but um, I'm glad I was able to get back in there after all this time.
What was the part of the fight, though, that you felt needed correcting? What did you immediately feel was the next thing that needs to be addressed?
Next thing that needs to be addressed, I guess I'll talk about that fight a little bit. Sometimes it's just the execution, and like I said, I've been out of the ring for 2 years. The coaches tell you one thing, and then you're going in the ring, you're like, oh man, this is really what I need to do. So I need to have a little bit more trust in that. But I want to chalk it up to just being out of the ring for so long and trying to execute in the moment. Other than that, I feel like I stayed on a lot of things that we talked on. So I mean, but like I said, there's always improvement. There's always things I can do better. I can always throw more punches. I can always be stronger and in better shape. And I think that's how it goes with every fighter. I don't think I've ever had a performance in my life that I was truly 100% satisfied with. So that's just the kind of person I am.
How many days off did the dog bite force you to take? Because it doesn't sound like you would have taken any off if you didn't have to.
No, actually, I didn't. After I got my initial shot, so I was going to get the rabies shots in Mexico. We showed up to a clinic that we found online, and they said, "Oh, we don't do them here. You have to go to the hospital." They said, "But if you go to a hospital, you're probably going to be there for 24 hours at least." And our flight was coming up, so we crossed the border on foot, and we were waiting for a long time. Getting into Mexico was easy. You just walk across, they give you a piece of paper, and by coming back there's a long line, so we were waiting in line for probably 4 or 5 hours. And the original plan was to get the rabies shots in San Diego, but we're like, dude, we're already cutting it close to the fight as is. So I jumped back on a plane, got back to Albuquerque about 9 p.m. And me and my lady, we just drove to urgent care, and we were we were there until I think 3 in the morning. She was upset because she had to go to work the next day, but I think I took maybe two days off, and then got back in the gym.
Never want to take it easy on yourself. Right away, right back into it. So what
Yeah.
was it? An immediate process of now seeking out this fight? You were confident your leg wasn't going to fall off or anything?
um, I got back in the gym, but like I said, I had a lot of credit card debt, so I wasn't training like I wanted to. And I don't know if you heard, and I haven't told a lot of people, so I guess I'll kind of break the news here. I applied for Albuquerque Fire Rescue, and I've so far passed all the interviews, all the entry processes, and the academy actually starts in early January. And so, at the time, one of my friends, he's a firefighter. He said, "Hey, man, this is something you should look into, and the kind of stuff you like to do." And I thought about it and say, "Hey, man, I think that's right up my alley, and I can help a lot of people." And so I applied, and I didn't know whether I was going to get in or not, but I passed the physical test, passed the written test, passed the oral exam, and everything's good. And so at that point, I was like, "Cool, man, I'm going to be a firefighter." And then I got a call from Legacy and said, "Hey, do you want to fight in December?" And at the time, I was still working, getting those credit card debts paid off, and I was like, you know what? Everything just kind of fits in the right frame, the right time. I'm like, yeah, man, let's do it. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at, and I'm so happy that I got the call, and they're keeping me active, and I don't have to wait another 12, 24 months before I fight again.
How big of a concern is that for you, that the activity was going to be the hardest thing to kind of preserve?
It was huge. It was huge. As evidenced by the last 2 years that I've been, trying to call and do all these things, and like I said, at that point, I was a little, I guess, what's the word? I was a little down on myself. I was like, I said, man, I just came back from this fight. I owe all this money. Um, and I was like, I want to fight, but I need to take care of these bills. And I'm actually super excited that I got accepted in the academy. I'm really, really looking forward to that. But I'm so ecstatic that everything just worked out with Legacy, with them throwing a card here local, that I don't have to travel to Mexico or go across the country or something like that. So, and I get to fight in front of all my friends, in front of all my fans, and that's just amazing for me.
Was firefighting something that you had ever considered? Was that a thought before your friend starts whispering to you, or was this like a brand new thought, or was it something that had been there before?
A little bit. When I was when I grew up, especially in Russia, I watched a lot of Schwarzenegger movies, a lot of Rambo. So in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna grow up. I'm gonna be a special forces guy. Jump out of planes, kill bad guys. And then, come high school, they have all the recruiters, right then and there. But I already had a few football scholarships lined up. So I'm thinking, like, man, I want to do this, I want to do that. And at the same time, I was like, I'm going to play in college, play in the NFL. So I kind of went the sports route. So I've always wanted to do something that's very, I guess, involved, something that, where things are happening. And I love those high stress environments, those jobs like that. So super I'm super glad I found it, um, even at this point in my life. And I've never given serious thought to it, but in the back of my mind, I was like, that would be a cool job, getting to help people, jumping and burning buildings, kicking down doors, stuff like that. So these are the types of jobs I've been drawn to my whole life. I think we talked, I used to work in the well field, and I love that too, being out there and driving around on rigs and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's right up my alley.
Right up your alley as you jump from one adrenaline sport to another. We get back to boxing. This fight's going to be a rematch. Was there a necessity to have the rematch? Did you just like the opportunity to stay active? I think Manuel has mentioned wanting to rematch you to me 30 times, probably.
Well, great. I'm glad I'm giving him the opportunity. I don't think the results are going to be any different than the first time. Uh, like I said, I got a call from Gabe from Legacy. He said, "Hey, what do you think about fighting Eastman again? He's something he wanted to do, or we'd love to have you in the card. If you want somebody else, we can look for somebody else." Say, "Hey, if he wants it, let's do it." And everything fits. And I like Manuel. All things aside, we fought and everything. I've seen him out in public, and he's a good dude. And if he really wants his opportunity this year, come get it.
Do you approach the fight? Do you approach the preparation any differently, having been in there with him and felt what he does one time already?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. For me, I was there at his last fight when he fought Cody East. I was actually in Cody's corner, so I got to see the things he was working on, what works for him, what doesn't. I still have a tape of our old fight, and me as a person, as a boxer, I should say, I'm very much a cerebral person. Every time I'm in camp and I go to sparring, I always film all my sparring. Say, okay, let's watch. What did I do good? What did I not do good? I analyze. I come back. I do it better. So I think I know what he's going to do. I think I know what he needs to do. I believe I know the changes he's going to try to implement, and I'm on top of it, man. I got a lot of people that have been helping me out, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
What are the goals for you in this fight? How do you build on what was a victory in Mexico? You already have one up in the win column on Manuel Eastman. How do you build?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I wanted to, like we talked last time, I got to put my foot on the gas pedal a little bit more, put more punches out there, try to throw them with a little meter intent. And I just got to keep working on that. Um, I'd be very, very pleased with the stoppage, and that's obviously what I'm looking for. But as always, I'm looking to go out there, dominate, put my hands on somebody, and there's always things I'm working on. There's always ways to improve, and the big test is not if you can do it on the heavy bag, or even if you can do it in sparring, is if you can do it in a fight. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm actually looking to make these improvements in the fight themselves. So
From the motorcycles to the oil rigs to the boxing ring, I never though expected that you would have a international makeup sponsorship thanks to Murat.
that's right, man. That's right. He's my good friend. We train together every day. He's actually going to be in my corner He's a very good friend of mine, and I was in his corner for his last, I think, 2 or 3 BKFC fights. And when him and I spar, we don't take it easy on each other, man. Like like I said, you can see it on my face. He puts hands on me. There's guys that come out there, and they're kind of just playing pitter patter with you. When him and I go, we get after it. We try to hurt each other.
He's one of the top ranked cruiserweights in BKFC. How good do you think he is? I think this guy has that world champion potential skill.
Oh, absolutely, man. From having been in there with him, he he hits very hard, and I can attest to that. He's rocked me before. He's marked up my face, and for what it is, a sport like BKFC bare knuckle, I think that's something he excels in. Uh, Partly because me, when I get out there, I'm more of a technician. I like to box and look for the big hits. He goes out there to fight. He goes out there to hurt people, and it's very sad that he's not getting any fight offers right now. The guy's staying ready. He's in the gym every day. So, BKFC, BYB, whoever's out there, give this guy a call. He's ready to go. He's ready to fight, and he wants to, stamp his name on in that world.
What is it that you felt in this boring that makes him a tricky boxer?
And you've seen him fight. He's a big guy, but he's very light on his feet. He's got that Soviet style, that pendulum step. He moves very well, and a lot of people aren't used to seeing that. His hands are, they're very quick, and he puts a lot of snap on him. And he's got heavy punches too, which is a dangerous combination. The punches get there fast and they hurt. And especially in bare knuckle, getting hit with these is one shot, and that's that. So he's a very unique fighter, especially for the United States. And like I said, he's just got the right mindset for bare knuckle. And I think he goes out there and beats a lot of those guys in the world, if not all of them.
I need to know your opinion. Probably, I don't know if I'm going to regret this. Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua?
If Anthony Joshua doesn't knock him out in 2 rounds, I'm going to think that something's fishy. There's no reason for Jake Paul to even compete with a guy like Joshua, if that makes sense. Joshua's too good. He's got the pedigree, he's got the skills. He's a former world heavyweight champion, a legitimate heavyweight champion. He had legitimate belts, Olympic gold medalist. So I still think the fight's somehow going to fall through, or they're going to make a last minute rule change where Joshua has to wear 24-ounce gloves or something like that. But
well, there's already a rehydration clause making him be 10 pounds lighter than he normally is.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's starting. It's starting.
It's starting. It's starting. So not a fan of the influencer phase.
I think we talked a little bit about Jake Paul before, and for what it is, I don't think he's a bad boxer. He's only been boxing for 5-6 years, and he does pretty well. And props to him for actually going out there and sparring with real boxers, bringing in real trainers. And if this is a real fight that happens with Joshua and 10-ounce gloves, then hats off to Jake Paul. You're going out there and there's a really good chance you're going to get hurt, really hurt. But that Mike Tyson fight I thought was just garbage.
Felt like someone carried someone a little bit. It was a bit of a show.
Yeah, very much so.
And also, you're the first boxer I've gotten to talk to, so I wanted to ask, what do you think? What do you make of Benavidez now, El Monster, saying he's moving up to cruiserweight?
Wow. And all things aside, I think he might do all right over there. I really do. He's only spent a little bit of time at light heavy. It would be very cool to see him fight Bivol or better Biev, but he did great against Anthony Yard. He beat Gvozdyk, and I don't think it's a terrible move. I think it's very, very interesting, and he is very much avoided. People don't want to fight him. I don't think that's that's a secret. So I think it'll be very interesting.
Do you even start thinking about the names that you dream about, that you would want to see, that you expect in a couple years would be realistic guys looking at the other heavyweights that are climbing the ladder right now?
Yeah, of course. I guess maybe part of it is my amateur background. I love to uh, check check to see who the number one guy is, who the number two guy is. I got to spar with a super heavyweight from the U.S. team when I was out in camp with Richard Torres a few months ago in Colorado. I think he'll be real good. Big athletic guy, 6'4", 250, and um, his name is Kelvin Watts. I think he'll be big. He'll be real good. But yeah, absolutely. Obviously in England, the big name right now is Moses Atama, and he's everyone they're putting in front of him, he's just crushing them. So I think he could be the real deal.
In your estimation, how long do you think it is before we see kind of that changeover where the U6, the Furies, the Wilders, they finally take the oodles of riches that they've rightfully earned in this sport and leave it to you younger guys?
I think that's a real question, a real concern, because sometimes the previous generation is just going to stay fighting the previous generation. They're going to keep their belts amongst themselves, and it's very hard for some of these younger guys to get a shot. And especially now that Usyk had all the belts, they're obviously he's I think he got stripped of what, the WBO maybe or something like that. WB, I don't know, but um mandatory stripping or whatever it's called. But I think Moses will get a shot soon within the next few years, regardless. And I think he might be the first young next generation guy to kind of get a crack at that.
How much do you pay attention to kind of the broadcasting landscape that's going on with boxing right now? We've got DAZN, we've got Riyadh season, TKO is coming on to Paramount next year. The broadcasting platform has just kind of totally changed where boxing was a couple months ago, where a top rank doesn't seem to hold the weight it once did.
Yeah, and I think when you've been at the top for so long, maybe you don't feel the need to evolve. And Riyadh, they kind of tried something new, or rather, DAZN tried something new, and then Riyadh's trying something new, and so a lot of that power in the boxing world is kind of shifting around, getting dissipated a little bit. I think it'll be interesting to see what TKO does. I know a lot of boxers aren't for it, in terms of making those 10, 20, $50 million purses. That might go away with TKO, but Riyadh season, they've definitely made some huge fights in the last few years, and I'm real thankful for that. But yeah, Top Rank, they're middling at best these days. England's doing a lot of good stuff, and obviously in the U.S., Top Rank is still huge, but I think on the global level, they're not the powerhouse they once were.
Do you, from seeing the transition, from seeing the new promoters, how it's changing, do you feel there's a reason or not to be optimistic from the boxer, the boxing fan perspective?
Ooh, okay. Okay, interesting question. I think as a boxing fan, you should be optimistic. As a boxer, you might get an up and coming boxer, you might get more opportunities on some of the bigger shows. Um, like for example, I love what UFC is doing with Fight Pass. It's still got the UFC brand with it, even though it's a smaller promotion, but it puts eyes on. Oh, 1 second. Sorry, my phone is. Oh, sorry. Am I back? Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Whatever. Sorry, my phone was wigging out. I love what UFC Fight Pass is doing. They're putting a lot of eyes on these younger up and coming guys, and things like the Contender series, and um, I think that's great. In boxing, a lot of what I've seen, I think unless you're an Olympian or you really got a lot of money behind you, it can be hard to break into the main boxing mainstream. Whereas in MMA, it might be a little bit, maybe not easier, but I feel like you might have a few more opportunities to get eyes on you.
Are you optimistic right now looking at your trajectory, your opportunities, what you see potentially ahead of you, as we're sure that the legacy continues too, will be your last fight of this year, at least I think, for what could materialize though for you in 2026?
Yeah, I think so. And I've actually been in touch with the promoter from Colorado for Sparta. They wanted to have me on, which was, real cool. But at that point, uh, I was already in talks for this fight with Legacy. But I'd love to come back to them soon. So it's been great. Like I said, I'm going to be starting the AFR Fire Academy in January. So I'm going to be sidelined for about 6 months because it's going to be 6 months real intensive, Monday through Friday, early morning to late night. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I think if I keep fighting, keep winning, I'm bound to get my shot. I really am.
Damasio Page, I believe, is involved in the fire department. Jalen Fuller. You'd be surprised, audience, about how many combat sports athletes are actually out there saving lives and being service people to the rest of the community during the day. Yeah, so are you prepared for not just the physical, but also the schooling and everything this is going to encompass learning fires?
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. And like I said, I love situations like this. I got to meet some of my classmates, and I think the majority of them are kind of in the same boat as me. We all love a challenge. I can see the fear in some of their eyes because from what I've heard, the Albuquerque uh, AFR academy is notoriously hard. They run you, they really beat you down. But I've always, even in sports and everything, I always wanted to see if somebody could put someone or something in front of me that'll break me. That really pushes me to new heights. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to challenge myself, test myself, and God willing, everything will go good for me, and I'll get out there and I could help some people. And on top of that, they have a great work schedule. You work for 48 hours and then you're out for 4 days, so 2 days on, 4 days off. And I think that's freaking amazing, especially when it comes to training and fighting. So I'm, yeah, 100% looking forward to it.
The last thing, you brought up challenge. How do you feel that this rematch challenges you?
uh So I talked with my friend Tim. He did a little interview, and I'll tell you the same thing I told him. I think Eastman looked real good in his last fight when he fought Cody East. I definitely think he's improved. I've improved too, and I think that's what it's about. Two people coming together and really give me your best. I'll give you my best, and we'll see who comes out on top. And I treat every fight like a challenge. I think we already talked at one point. I said there were a few fights that I might have looked at the guy's record and I said, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to knock him out. And all of a sudden it doesn't happen and you're not in the right state of mind. And oh gosh, boom, I have a draw on my record. And so that's definitely a mindset I've gotten away from. I'm here for it. I expect to see the best Manuel Eastman I've seen. And, he can expect to see the best Drago he's seen.
It's Baby Drago, Leonid Grachev. You guys can see him at the Kiva Auditorium, Legacy Boxing Promotions. The legacy continues too on December 12th.
Absolutely. Big shout out to all my sponsors, all my friends, all my fans that are coming to see me. Friday is going to be the last day I'm going to have tickets. So if you guys need tickets, shoot me a message on Instagram at Baby Drago Boxer, or shoot me a text if you have my phone number. If you don't, Instagram. Friday is the last day I'm going to have tickets. I hope to see you guys.